central Utah, late June 2012. It's been over 2 months since the last measurable precipitation. Winter left very little snowpack. Red flag conditions have been persistent, with days of high winds, low relative humidity. The desert fuels, sage, and pinyon juniper are parched and vulnerable to fire. Nearby, members of the Oak City Volunteer Fire Department have recently completed their annual wildland fire training refresher course and physical fitness test. Members of the fire department all work at regular daily jobs and only serve on the fire department during weekly drills and when a pager demands of them to drop everything and run to the aid of their town during a fire. Hello, I'm Rowdy Muir. I have 25 years experience in wildland fire suppression and in incident management. I recently spent 6 years as an incident commander on the National Type 1 Incident Management Team. You are about to hear the accounts from 3 men involved in a burnover incident near the Clay Springs area, just south of Oak City, Utah. The Oak City Fire Department is a good fire department. These firefighters train and practice regularly. Each of the participants in the Clay Springs fire is red carded. These men had many years' experience fighting fires on the west desert of Utah. This fire initially didn't seem out of the ordinary. However, extended drought combined with red flag conditions placed these men in a situation to which they were unaccustomed. As the event unfolded, many watch-out situations were present. These watch-out situations are important things that Clark, Ross, and Cameron would like you to learn from their experience.
Oak City Fire Department, you're needed for a 1070 wildfire out in the Clay Springs area.
I was home in bed trying to get a nap before I went to work that night. I work at the power plant. I heard the pager go off and it called for Oak City south of town. I heard that. So I immediately jumped up. I had my fire clothes close by, and so I just put them on and jumped on my bike and scored up here as fast as I could.
June 27th, this is just after 2. I was actually just finished up the concrete. The wood poured, finished it, and was just talking to the homeowner. And when the fire alarm went off, so I figured I'd better go. Came in and changed, went out on a gamma goat.
It was early afternoon. I was helping my brother put in some countertops at my parents' house, and the fire alarm went off. Here in Oak City, we're on a volunteer basis, and so there's no one that really has to respond. And so as that fire alarm went off for a while, I decided I better come help with the efforts of putting this fire out.
And so I come, grabbed my hat, my gloves, jumped in the truck. And about that time Cameron come running in, and I said, "Jump in, Cameron, let's go, it's south of town."
I come into the fire station, got my gear, jumped in the truck with Clark Christensen, and as we headed out, we seen 2 more people coming, but we figured that they could bring the other vehicles out. We were a little undermanned on the truck, Rambo, but as we went out, we figured we could at least start until we got more help.
Rambo is a 5-ton, 6-wheel drive military truck. It's got a 1,200-gallon tank on the back. When you put it in 6-wheel drive and you've got that weight on you, you can go just about anywhere. A lot of people think we're crazy for using these military trucks, but they're tough, they're strong, they're dependable, they're lifesavers.
As we headed out, the column of smoke was going straight up in the air, but we could tell that the fire was growing.
Cameron says, "We've got to stop this. I need this summer range for my cows." And I says, "We've got to stop this or this is going to hit town." And it didn't look like a problem. The plume was still straight in the air. The column was just going straight in the air. I thought, no problem. But at that point, I called back to the station. I said, "Bring us everything you got. We've got a pretty good fire out south of town."
Clark and I discussed how we were gonna attack this fire, and we decided the best way to attack it is to go behind it and flank it back to the road.
At that point, the wind had started to gradually pick up, and there was a little bit of a breeze blowing from the south. I started the pump, and we took off.
How we did it was I would spray water, Clark would drive. I noticed that the fire started again behind us. I told Clark we needed to turn around and catch that spark.
I thought, this is foolish. We could have 2 nozzles going off the side, and we'll be in the fuel side, but we'll We'll go along that side and we'll have two nozzles going. And so I was driving, shooting out the window, and Cameron was backing me up right behind me. And I could hear Cameron talking, and we were going along, putting the fire out. Now when we started, it was in cheatgrass, about this tall, and a few short sagebrush. It was no big deal. We were knocking it down. Plus, I'd seen, before we left the road out there, I'd seen in my rearview mirror a gamma goat coming. So I knew I would have support right behind me coming in shortly.
While they knew that the gamma goat was coming, no instructions were given and a plan was never discussed. Urgency led to this breakdown.
The fire come up again, I told Clark. The second loop we turned around, that's when Ross Anderson got off the gamma goat and got on with us.
When we actually got out there, the fire had actually blown to the other side of the McCormick Road, which is to the west of the road. And then when we met up with the gamma goat, Clark and Cam were spraying it, and Clark was trying to drive and spray at the same time. And so that's when I took it upon myself to get off the gamma goat and went with them.
This was the last time that there was any contact between the gamma goat and Rambo. A radio communication link was never established. Faulty radio equipment and the noise generated by these military trucks prevented it.
Clark was driving, Ross was spraying a hose, I was spraying a hose, and Ross would knock down the initial flame, and then I would come along behind and mop it up.
I could see him out the side of my mirror, and so I could drive along the edge of the fire and watch with them, as well as watching where this was going.
The platform on the truck is about a 12-inch platform that we ride on, and we can stand on it, lean against the tank, and spray water.
We started getting into bigger fuels, and the flame started getting a little hotter, but we were doing a good job. We were putting it out for the most part. The darn fire would not stay out. It was so stinking dry, you know, you could leave it. You could see water dripping, and after a little while, you'd have a little bit of a smoke and a little bit of a flame come out.
Fire weather forecasts called for red flag conditions of high wind and low relative humidity. Extended drought prior to this fire led to fire behavior conditions manifesting significant resistance to control. Similar fire behavior was experienced just a week prior, 5 miles away during the 16,000-acre grease fire.
Farther up along, we actually crossed a road that was about, a foot and a half lower than the rest of the dirt. Crossed that and got up a little bit more, and I think that's when I looked back and saw the fire had already blown across our line that we'd put out. So Clark had turned around, and by the time he got turned around, it was already pushed our one escape route completely away.
As we got up in there, the wind shifted, and we got strong winds, and we could feel the flames on us pretty hot. So we told the driver, you know, we got to get out of here.
The primary escape route was back the way they had come. However, that escape route proved not viable after the fire on multiple occasions rekindled and crossed behind Rambo.
All of a sudden we had fuel about as high as the standing bar on the side of the truck. And all of a sudden I heard them yell, "Wind change," and I looked back in the mirror, and the flames were just lapping up against the truck, and I could see Ross and Cameron leaning back and squirting. And I thought, oh no, so I veered away from the fire to get those guys out.
There was flames that shot up in front of the truck, and it was headed towards some juniper trees.
You know, the worst case scenario would be for me to try and run and get that truck in between those junipers the same time they were alit.
We knew that that wasn't a good escape route. We was in sandy soil, so if he would have stopped the truck, it would have took quite a bit to get it rolling again. So he just made the loop, and as he made the loop, there was fire behind us.
Now, the secondary escape route ahead of them, which led to the gravel pit or back to the McCormick Road, was compromised. Their options had just run out.
And so I turned around, and the hillside was there, and I thought, you know, I can make that hill, but is it worth trying to make that hill with a full truck? And at that point, I was told to turn and go, second gear.
And so Clark, he figured he just needed to just go into the black, just try to get through the black as fast as he could.
And it was that fast that I grabbed second gear. I didn't have a chance to talk to Ross or Cameron and tell them what I was doing or the situation that I saw, but I just turned and I went through that fire just as fast as I could go. I didn't have a chance to yell, hold on, look out, anything, cover up, anything.
He had no time to stop and tell us what we wanted to do, but I know if he would have stopped, we wouldn't be here now.
Where we sat hits me about chest high. So we were pretty high up on the truck. I knew that the front of the truck was going to be the first out of the flames, so I crawled on top of the truck up between the two rails to the front of the truck, and as we hit the flames just engulfed the truck. And we don't know the exact distance that we were in the flames, but we know that it was quite a ways.
We probably were more like 150, 200 feet that we went through into flames before they actually died down.
As we started going through that, it got hotter and it got hotter. The flames come up over the cab and I'm thinking, oh my gosh.
I was in flames and I was on the top of the truck. So we know we had flames as high as the truck, and it never let up.
When it turned into flame, all I did was just drop the nozzle, turned around, and buried my face as low as I could because it said protect your airways.
I pulled my elbow up with my, to cover my ear because my ears were just burning. And as I looked down, the flames were coming up through the gear shift hole. And it was just swirling coming up, and my ears on that side was burning, my elbows were burning. And so I just floored it and put my head down and just went. And was just praying I wouldn't hit one of those trees.
The flames were so hot and I was trying to get oxygen and there was no oxygen to breathe. And I can remember gasping for air and nothing but flames, hot flames to breathe. And about that time I figured, I maybe pass out or because I was out of air.
When we turned to make a run for it, there was a road that went through there and there was a drop off. And we hit that at a pretty good clip. And with a big truck, if they weren't holding on at that time, I could have dumped them off. And so as soon as I could see a little bit of daylight, I jumped out of the truck to look to see if I had Cameron and Ross.
He stopped the truck and I jumped down on the passenger side of the truck and told Clark, get us out of here, it's still hot.
And at that point, I just kicked it back into gear and I just floored it for all we were worth. And I got over there a ways just about to the road and I could look in my mirrors. I was trying to spot to see if Ross and Cameron were on the truck. And I could see Ross just hunched over the truck, just leaning there. And as I got out, I could see Cameron, and it looked just like his face had melted, wax down on his face. I thought I've killed him. So I grabbed the radio and I yelled for an ambulance. As we got right to the edge of the road, I noticed we were dragging a hose, so I jumped out and hurried and pushed the hose reel, rolled up the hose, and I knew then that Ross was in bad shape and that Cameron was in bad shape. And I pulled on the road and I just burned down the road. The road was all covered with smoke and I could see flashing lights ahead.
And then we continued on down to where all the other vehicles were stationed at. And we had to wait for the ambulance to get there.
At that point I got Cameron off and saw what he looked like. Ross.
You can see right here that it's got pretty burned, but if I wasn't wearing the shroud, the whole left side of my face probably would have been burnt pretty bad. But as it was just a little bit right here on the cheek that I got it. You can see that my backside got real bad, then on down to where my boots were at. But I had second-degree burns all on the legs. And the shirt, you can see right here that it got pretty hot. You can see a strap here, up and down. That's where I had the BK radio on at the time. And then I was taken to the hospital and then life flighted up to Salt Lake to the burn center.
I was transported to Delta Hospital and with the first responders, and they life flighted me from there. I had burns on my face, front of my face, my elbows, my calf, and where my belt was on my pants. My hand had a burn on it because I didn't have proper gloves. After I was treated at Delta Hospital, they life-flighted me to the University of Utah Burn Center.
We, as wildland firefighters, need to learn from this experience. Many watch-out situations as well as extreme fire behavior were present. Let's examine some of them now. Watch-out situation number 3. While they thought their escape routes were viable, the condition that existed at the time and poor coordination with the gamma goat compromised their plan. Watch-out situation number 4. We must learn that the combined effects of an extended drought and red flag conditions may create unfamiliar fire behavior. It is important to know weather conditions and anticipate their effect on the fire. Watch-out situation number 5. It is important to communicate tactics and coordinate efforts with other resources. A carefully coordinated attack between Rambo and the gamma goat would have secured the line behind them and preserved their anchor point and escape route. Watch-out situation number 6. Since there was a strong feeling of urgency, instructions and assignments were not discussed between the two resources. Watch-out situation number 7. As in nearly all fire tragedies, communications between resources played an important role. The urgency of this fire contributed to a lack of communication and coordination. This led to an unmanageable gap between tandem attacking resources and thus an escape fire. One message that Clark once conveyed is the importance of not taking a fire too personal, feeling too much urgency, and getting tunnel vision. Watch out situation number 8. We should learn from this incident that a good anchor point, in this case the McCormick Road, can be invalidated if the line between you and your anchor point is not secure. Watch out situation number 11. These men were fighting fire from the unburned side of the fire. While it often makes sense to fight fire on the green side of the line, it can lead to an accident, especially combined with other watch out situations. Watch out situation number 15. A change in wind speed and direction was a critical factor in this incident. While initially the fire was unthreatening, the forecasted winds soon manifested. What we can learn from this incident is to allow for changes in wind speed and direction. Watch out situation number 17. Steep terrain to the right of Rambo prevented the escape in that direction. The patch of junipers to the north nullified an escape through them. The effects of the terrain and fuel should be carefully evaluated to ensure that your escape routes will work. To learn from the experiences of the Oak City Fire Department and avoid life-threatening situations, we must constantly evaluate our situational awareness by applying the risk management principles contained on the green page 1 of the IRPG. Learn all you can about your incident. Be constantly alert to new and changing conditions. Identify possible hazards and mitigate those hazards using the standard firefighting orders in LCES. Once you've placed adequate controls on existing hazards, proceed, but never stop evaluating for change. You must quickly identify changes to your circumstances and repeat the risk management process to ensure your safety and the safety of those around you. To further ensure safety and effectiveness, firefighters are encouraged to obtain as much training as possible to bolster their knowledge of the fire environment. Many wildland fire courses are available to you. Seek out your source of training and enroll in the classes that further your knowledge, safety, and effectiveness. The Clay Springs fire near Oak City, Utah was a major misfortune to 3 firefighters and their families. However, it could have been much worse. These men, who volunteer their time to protect their homes and community, paid a precious price for those whom they serve. They have now offered to you an opportunity to learn from their experience. It is their hope you will learn from their story, and another tragedy that could be yours will be avoided.